This is the worst show we've ever
I'm
done.
just kidding. We drove in the car
Do you
together.
want to restart?
Should we start?
Yeah,
We'll
we're
start right over.
We're gonna
That
start
can't be
over.
it. That
That
can't be it.
Okay, so this is the special episode of Kibbe on Liberty where we all gather at Free the People at the end of the year to have Christmas dinner to talk about what we did in 2020 and what we're going to do in 2021. And since everybody's here, we're going to put everybody in front of this microphone and you're going to tell us all sorts of cool things. Before we went live, Matt was talking about his odd hygiene habits, and we're just not going to get into that because
Enough
this
already.
is a family show.
I've never been caught on a single Skype or Zoom in pajamas or anything. I'm always dressed, showered, and ready to go. My hair is questionable, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been times when I've wondered if you've actually combed your hair since the lockdown started. I'll be honest.
never comb my hair, so the answer is no.
Listen, we've all been seen. Not
we're
the best
not-
circumstances on Zoom.
There is no
Let's-
Zoom
let's
shaming
no judge.
to happen here.
It's literally the first time I've had pants on in 6 months.
It's,
the
Everyone
shot-
here can
it's
attest
true.
to that.
The shot demanded it, so we're here. But Kara, let's start with you because if you screw it up, it makes it easier for the rest of us. So what do you do at Free the People anyway, Kara?
Well, at Free the People, I'm Kara Pally. I'm our Chief Technology Officer, as you all well know. So I do all our technology, all our marketing, so all our distribution of our videos, all of our tracking of our analytics, all of our building of websites, all of our things tech. That is what I do. Running along with Joel Davis, our social media, and so wear lots of hats here.
And we've been working together 10-ish years or something.
Yes, we have. This is our 10-year anniversary,
Yeah.
guys.
Cheers
Kibbe's.
to that.
Cheers to
That's
that.
right, because it was 2010 when we all got together.
This is a drinking show, by the way.
It's after 12, so it's legal.
But for those of you guys watching this that watch the podcast but don't necessarily check out the other stuff that Free the People does, we're a team of 10 people?
10.
10 people, give or take. And it's half artists, videographers, and it's half technologists. So our job is to make cool content and try to get people to watch it. And Kara, you're sort of on the although you get involved in everything, but your job is to make sure that people watch our stuff.
Yep, I take the content and I put it online.
Wow.
No, we do a
You
lot
can't give
more.
away trade secrets.
We do
like
a lot
that.
more than that, though. No, it's. I mean, we're on all kinds of channels. We're trying to bring content wherever people are at. So it's not. It should be very easy to find us. We're at For the People on literally every channel. So we try to bring it there, and we try to bring it to people who want to see it, and we target people in certain age groups and who like certain interests, and we try to bring the stuff that we're making to the folks who want to see it. And the audience just keeps growing. So it's been great because turns out people like it.
And we really want to reach young people because too many libertarians and conservatives they sort of preach to the choir, and the average age of that choir is 90-ish.
It's not getting younger, that choir. So, and I mean, us here, I mean, we're young people. We want folks that we're friends with to watch our content, and so
I'm like the token old guy.
yeah. So we try. We do. So that is our target audience. We are reaching people in all age groups, honestly. But that's the folks that we on staff are trying to reach, and that's who it's been the easiest group for us to reach out to. I mean, as our audience grows, it's gotten younger and younger over the past. How long have we been here? 5 years. Free the People has been.
So what's the big thing we've done differently this year? Because we've been migrating away from social media to other platforms. What's the super secret way that people can get to watch more of our stuff?
Sure. We've gotten on some other stuff. So we've gotten more and more of our stuff on Amazon. So that's a big one for us. We've had a lot of, with very limited marketing, we've had a ton of organic views on Amazon. So our whole Deadlyism series is on there. It's our sort of best of the best content. So our documentary, How to Love Your Enemies, on there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's a lot of our stuff on there. So we basically take the stuff that performs best, the stuff that we're most proud of, and we put that on Amazon Prime. So if you search for Free the People, you can find our channel on there and see everything that's on there. And other channels as well. I mean, we've,
Our website.
well, yes, obviously, freethepeople.org, but I'm talking about new stuff that we've, freethepeople.org.
Well, it's grown a lot. It's grown a lot.
We have, yeah. Especially COVID has been a crazy year for everybody, as you all know. But for us, it's actually been pretty good in terms of traffic. Right out of the gate, when everything started back in March, we were one of the first people that were sort of posting some content, questioning all the stuff that was going on, pushing back a little bit. And we saw huge traffic spikes. He's mentioning our website because it's true. We've had the most website traffic this year than we've ever had. So that's been exciting. And same deal, it's across the board. We've seen growth across the board. We've seen the most YouTube views we've ever had, the most website traffic. It's been a good year for us in that way.
So I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm so proud that Free the People was easily one of the very first people out of the gate questioning the wisdom of lockdowns and the economic consequences of government planners deciding for us how we might mitigate the risk of COVID. But I'm waiting for the uprising. Like, where are the people, man?
I don't think it's coming.
Well, I'm starting to feel it. I live in New York City, and I'm starting to feel it with the restaurants there. I can tell you that much. The first time around, people seemed like they just went right along with the shutdown. This time, everything just got shut down again. I'm seeing lots more anger coming out. People are, breaking the rules finally. So I'm glad to see it. I hope there's more of it. People should stand up for their businesses and their freedom and their ability to go eat dinner. So
there have been protests in Europe and other countries. There have been major demonstrations, I think, in Serbia and other places. So we're just a little slower at the gate for this one, which is surprising.
I assume we're a little bit richer, so we can weather this longer.
Yeah, we're more sheltered from the bad things.
Unless you own a restaurant or a bar or a small business.
Yep, and then they decide you don't matter. And
non-essential. So Battaglia, you are, I don't even know what your title is at Free the People. Executive producer. All right. And so what have you executive produced this year that you're super excited about?
We've done a lot of exciting stuff this year. I think, Sam and Logan are going to talk about some of the things. We released How to Love Your Enemy, a restorative justice story, which was a big documentary that we did. I think we did it. We finished it last year, but we released it this year, so that was exciting. We also released the Constitution Line by Line series with Mike Lee, which we did in partnership with the Federalist Society, which was delayed because of the COVID, because we wanted to release it, and then it was like, this is definitely going to get buried by the cocoa, and so we pushed that out to September.
How many nicknames do you have for the virus?
Started as the Rona.
Yeah, it's a lot of them. I don't like, I've just been trying to make it it bums me out if I think too deeply about it, so I try not to go there. So this year I've some things I made that I was really proud of.
Awkward sadness right there.
Yeah. Has been some done some comic strip stuff, specifically around some of the justice stuff, all the police stuff and all that, which kind of gets lost.
Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, and all the Rona stuff. So that was those I was pretty proud of. And then we've been doing a lot of KOLs this year, and we've had to figure out how to do that with all the Skype and figuring out guests and all that. And so I think that us as a team and as a group have really. We've released new episodes of Deadly Isms. We released a video on education, which was exciting.
It's been a busy year.
There's a lot of things, and so but it's all been a blur.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like it happened to a different person.
Well, it feels like it happened to a different country, and I was talking to Eric July about this when I was in Dallas, and he was on the show. But the one thing that we did well, and he had to do the same thing because he's the frontman for a band, and bands and music are now deemed illegal,
right?
At least live bands. And one thing we did in March is we just stopped a lot of what we were doing, like the Mike Lee thing and like the restorative justice thing, and just flip gears and focus on this.
We had, on our project management board of all our videos, there was 4 or 5 things. We had trips planned. We were, I could think of a couple of them now that it was all right, well, I guess we'll just put that on hold and switch gears, which we did.
Yeah, one of the big things we wanted to do was expand what we did with restorative justice. And Sam will come in and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but anything that required travel became a totally was thrown out of whack. I mean, we did go on one trip to go film with a KOL with Ron Paul, which was exciting. And I mean, fortunately that worked out. And I mean, good thing he lives in Texas, I suppose. But, it was all that travel was gone, basically. And I mean, I know that, like, you guys went down to the Libertarian Convention happened this year, but it happened very differently. And I know that was a completely other experience, basically. So
it was the Libertarian Convention was a super spreader event, and
which nobody got sick at.
Several people got the COVID, but it was the people streaming in from home that got sick.
That's what I'm
so go figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, some of the other things. I mean, we talk about like the some of the effects that things have had. I mean, one of the things that I've ended up doing a little bit, just one of my friends runs a restaurant. Ran a restaurant before the COVID hit, and then when everything happened, here's a guy who he didn't have much to begin with, but like his business had started coming together. And then that all got stripped from him, and I ended up helping him like figure out like, hey, dude, you gotta do online ordering, and like let's figure this out so you don't like your family doesn't go without you bringing in any cash.
Right, but for a lot of people though, like overcoming that technology hurdle
huge.
Even is hard for people to know how to switch gears like that to adapt.
Right, and so it's really been you like this year has been a lot of like looking at like, okay, I'm thankful for a lot of things that we have, like that, are fortunately with our space, we were able to pivot and sort of figure out ways to do what we do and do it differently. And, there's a lot of people who have really, struggled with that. And it's terrible what local governments specifically have done to folks. It's pretty scary.
While we're doing that, maybe I could ask Terry a question about one of the cooler events we did this year, which is very much about restorative justice, and that was our pop-up movie theater in Minturn, Colorado.
It's a drive-in theater.
Inflatable drive-in theater.
Right. Is a drive-in theater a movie theater?
It is a movie theater. Yeah, it's a type of movie.
Can I get a rough call on this?
All right. So it was at a movie theater that you used your cars to watch the show at. So one of the things that we did.
You just corrected me on camera.
I know. It's not the first time.
Yeah. Thank God we got that one in the can.
Can I go on?
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things that we did early in lockdown was we started doing online happy hours, like everybody else did. We did ours every other week, and we talked about the things that we've been doing and had a lot of great interaction with our supporters and our donors and our activists across the country. And as a result of one of them, we were talking about the restorative justice movie and how we wanted to get it out to people, but we're kind of stymied because everything was shut down. And so a good friend of ours in Colorado came up with this brilliant idea to show it at a drive-in theater. And it was truly a pop-up drive-in theater. When we got there that afternoon, it was a gravel lot, and there was a deflated thing on the side of the parking lot that was the movie screen. So they set it up and drive-in.
It was in front of a cemetery.
In front of a cemetery, right. But with the mountains in the background. So it was actually beautiful. A really beautiful place. And he did such a great job. It wasn't just showing the film. It was actually interactive. And we had people that were in the film giving presentations. And he really wants to get this implemented in Eagle County. So he brought in local law enforcement. There was a couple sheriffs. There was a DA. And I got to tell you, I'm usually not excited when I see a bunch of cop cars pulling into my event. But this time it was great. And they were there to learn. And we had really great discussions. And they're moving forward. And that's one of the purposes of this film that we made. It's not just to teach people about this project, but also to figure out how to implement it in their local communities. So,
yeah, I think that was like such a cool event that wouldn't have happened if COVID hadn't happened. Mm-hmm. You know, we never would have had a drive-in movie screening. That wouldn't even have come to mind. Mm-hmm. But somehow that made it more of a event that people wanted to go to and a bit more of a movement, and we can see that happening in different places because it's this really unique thing.
Yeah.
That also was like, you weren't just going into a building. It was very much a part of that town and that place. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a really cool thing.
Well, the other thing too is like the drive-in was an element of like, because of the Coco, But the other element that I think that we kind of, I don't know if we forgot about it, but like the other element is that the reason for wanting to do that screening too was in direct response to all of the, I don't know how to, like all the like unrest, I don't know, all the protests, all the like the justice stuff, and like there was a huge, I don't know if everyone remembers
the abuses of police power,
right?
That were highlighted by George Floyd and all of these others.
And so this was we realized rather quickly is that like while everyone was pouncing on all this sort of like let's tell like all these horrors and terrible things, which fine, yes, there's a lot of abuses happening, but we actually had hey, here's a system that is a positive thing. This is something that you could in theory implement, and here's how you do it, and we've got people that can speak to you on this, and that was really important about that, is that I think that in that moment and still people are searching for what's a positive solution, what's an actual answer, and we had something that did that.
Yeah, I think that was such a great opportunity. The timing was just so perfect. When that was, we weren't planning on debuting the film at that time, and then we realized it was the moment to release it. Yeah. Because there was, like you said, there weren't any solutions. No. Really, there was no solutions about. No one was presenting any solutions at all. Yeah. And we had this grassroots, really a very libertarian solution to this problem. And we don't call it libertarian because that would probably turn people off, but it really is. It's like this, it's a solution that the state doesn't have to be involved in at all. It's just community members. It's just people who care about their local communities coming together to solve this deeply troubling issue of incarceration and, people going away for lengthy periods of time for nonviolent drug offenses. And, it's a solution that doesn't cost that much either.
Right.
It also doesn't require politics. So so much of our fight over criminal justice reform is waiting for the president to do something or waiting for Congress to act. Right. And the thing that I sort of realized when we were in that drive-in movie theater is that the community are the ones that are in power. They can do this. Right. And the only excuse is that they didn't try. Right. Yeah. Versus, like, you can always blame Washington, D.C. Oh, they didn't fix this, they didn't fix that. So that to me is sort of radical in the sense that every community in America, it could be Detroit, it could be Longmont, Colorado, you can go fix this for your own self.
Well, it seems so funny that like with like the COVID and the lockdowns and all that stuff, like everyone was looking, they said, all the governors and mayors and whatever, they all said, oh, we won't wait for Trump to act. We'll just we'll lock everything down ourselves. But when it comes to criminal justice reform, it's like, hey, Trump needs to do this. And it's like, well, you could do something. It's your police force that's got the issues.
Are you saying that politicians are hypocritical?
Yes. And so it is, it's been, we also did a number of live streams with How to Love Your Enemy as well, which were exciting. I mean, we did them for ourselves, but other groups came to us asking for us to host live streams for them to show to their activists and people. I mean, the LCJP, we hosted a number of live streams for them to show to their their volunteers and the people that they're in their town, which is where we filmed it and made it in Longmont, Colorado, and
Sam,
so that was really exciting.
Sam, how many awards have you won so far? Like, are you tired of winning yet?
I'm not tired at all. We have won 5 awards. Is it 5 now at this point?
I think so. The most recent was Freedom Fest. No, the most recent
was the
Atlas Network.
See, it's there's so much winning.
I mean, and that's another thing that happened during COVID. We had submitted to all these different film festivals. Probably 12 or 13 film festivals, really expecting it to be just your typical film festival experience where we go and we're able to hopefully get into some schmooze and see some films. And none of that really ended up happening.
You got to go to one, didn't
Sam
you?
went
to one
in Longmont.
yeah, in Longmont. And we won a couple awards at that one. But I just think it's really cool how even like the whole, film industry has adapted and things went online, or, we were able to, like you say, we're able to do these screenings online, and we actually got, what was our biggest audience?
I don't remember.
2,000 people watching. I mean, we got probably more people watching than if we would have done live showings. So,
and
I think
and at basically no cost.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to fill a theater is expensive, and it's hard.
And you have to rent a theater.
Right.
I mean, there might be a lot of those up for sale, but
right.
So Sam, you actually did something in response to COVID as well. You live on the West Coast, and so a lot of what we used to do in terms of filming together couldn't happen. So you took it upon yourself, started working with Logan, and came up with a couple series. And we're going to bring Logan in to talk about that as well. But talk a little bit about. We'll fix that in
Love
post.
The chaos.
Logan has a very dramatic entrance coming on. but talk about the so when COVID hit, I really focused on the economic costs, the opportunity costs, the things that we wouldn't get to do, like cancer screening and feeding people and stuff like that only happens when people are free.
Right.
You really glommed on to the civil liberties threats, like what happens when we see this much power to government.
Yeah.
What did that become?
Well, I think COVID, I always try to look at the silver linings of anything. And I think COVID has done a lot of harm, obviously, and lockdowns and all this stuff, but it's done a lot of good in certain ways. And I think what you're referring to is kind of just made me realize, we talk about all these libertarian principles, and we talk about government getting too big and needing to harness government power in different areas. And sometimes it can be kind of theoretical because it feels like it's not necessarily happening. I mean, we kind of see it happening in D.C., but when COVID happened, it was all of a sudden like you felt that in your hometown. And I think it just lit a fire under me. And I realized, we're going to lose a lot of our rights, and we're not going to get them back. And I think we all realized that very early on, and you could tell that nobody was going to nobody's going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I also think people don't know their history, so we created a series called Freedom Over Fear, where we look at all these different periods of crises in American history and show how people have lost their rights, and we didn't get them back because we want to. The government loves a crisis because they can take away everything that we hold dear. And we almost forget, we have a short memory as a population. We forget that we had those rights or how much we need them. And we're really willing to give them away for a sense of security. So we wanted to create this series. We talk about several different things. You can talk about some of the topics if you want.
Yeah. I love the title Freedom Over Fear because I feel like this year has taught us so much that like when you let fear govern your life and dictate your decisions, it ends very, very badly, and you give up everything that makes life worth living because life is a dangerous business. Nobody gets out of it alive, and you have to take risk in order to have a meaningful life. And so I'm very dismayed by how much people have allowed their fears to control them and take a whole year out of their lives that they could have been using for traveling or exploring the world or doing all these important things that are important parts of life. And so, we wanted to take a look back at some historical abuses that have happened in times of crisis in the past, and how whenever these emergencies happen, like Mike Lee called it emergency socialism, whenever emergencies happen, the government makes a power grab, essentially because because everybody's afraid, and they're like, help us, protect us. And, there's a lot of examples of it. The New Deal in the Great Depression is a great example of it. There's all kinds of abuses of power there, basically fascist economic policies where FDR did price controls, prevented businesses from operating the way they wanted to operate, seized the means of production a little bit, banned the private ownership of gold. You had before that or during that you had prohibition, where people were prevented from drinking alcohol because of the fears of the dangers of alcohol.
Internment camps for Japanese Americans.
Internment camps for Japanese Americans, which is one of the worst abuses ever. No one really talks about it that much anymore. But the idea that you're putting American citizens in concentration camps essentially is horrifying. And people remember FDR as a good president. He did that,
And like
these things.
a softer version of that, and I want to be clear, I'm not comparing the two, but curfews, arbitrary curfews.
Yes.
You can't be out after 10 p.m. Stay-at-home orders, where depending on where you are, you can literally get fined or worse for doing these things. And governors and mayors are just whipping this stuff out. And I'm like, why don't people see that there are implications to giving these guys such power?
Well, the one that really scared me is early this year when we had Easter. And as far as I could tell in my research, it was unprecedented in American history that the government said that Americans can't go out and worship on Easter at their churches or synagogues or wherever they want to go. And I'd never seen that happen before in American history. And it's blatantly against the First Amendment. We have freedom of religion in this country. And I was just appalled at the fact, first of all, that people were willing to try to enforce that. And the second of all, that so many people didn't get upset about it and just said, okay, I'll stay home and won't celebrate my religion on its most important holiday of it.
No, I think that's like a huge part of it, right? Is how easily people capitulated to all of this. And not only capitulated, but I live in Marin County, which is just a very liberal, almost communist bastion in Northern California. And there's more conformity there than just about anywhere else, and that was just shocking to me. So it was like people loved being told what to do, and they loved telling other people what to do. And very early on, there was a snitch line in our county, and people were reporting each other and businesses for disobeying very arbitrary laws or stay-at-home orders or all these different things, and they're just being inundated with calls and emails. And my wife and I took it upon ourselves to email and kind of give the opposite message of like, we hate this and this is completely unconstitutional, and I can't believe you're getting neighbors to snitch on each other. It just seems so un-American and wrong. But I mean, you see stuff like that, and it's like you kind of see how some of these, Nazi Germany happened. You see how it doesn't take very much for people to follow every whim of the government.
Yeah. I was just reading an article about how your holidays are going to look differently this year because of COVID, and all of the different things that people are doing, or more importantly, not doing. Mm-hmm. And the most frightening comment was, I'll call her Karen for lack of a better word, was she said that, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'd really like to have my family over for Christmas dinner, but I have to wait to see if the government will let me. So she is allowing the government to decide who can come into her own private residence and have dinner. And it's just disgusting how easily people slip into it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I can't do that. I have to wait and see if the government will
it's such a scary thing because, like if you just have tyrants just trying to oppress the people, we kind of know what to do with that. You can resist and fight back. But when the people themselves are asking for tyranny, that's really scary. And I don't really know what you do about that.
What's funny about you two guys sitting here at this moment is in March, you wrote a piece to publish on Free the People that I wouldn't let you publish, which was sort of this anti-authoritarian, libertarian screed against the impending authoritarian state. And I bet you if we publish today, we should, by the way, because I bet you that everything you predicted.
We did. We published it.
Did we? Okay.
Yes. You let me publish it after 8 months.
Yeah.
But it was called a manifesto of disobedience, and it was about how people should resist these changes and calling back to historical examples, right? Like prohibition, where people said, you can make whatever law you want. I'm going to keep my bar open.
Yeah.
I'll just do it secretly. And now contrasting that with today, where everyone's just giving in and accepting it and saying, you guys have to resist this or it's going to turn bad. And I think all my predictions have come true in that piece, and I'm happy that it's finally able to see the light of day.
So I was an accommodationist, letting the state steal my rights. And the other one, which is kind of funny, is part of the Freedom Over Fear series. Yeah. You guys wrote up one on vaccinations, right. And we're all picking on you. Like, we're not anti-vax here. Let's not go there. And lo and behold, governors are readily, openly talking about the government forcing you to stick this vaccine in your arm.
Yeah, we should be clear that the video is not about being anti-vaccine. It's about medical freedom and your choice to choose what you put in your own body.
It's anti-mandatory
It's
vaccine.
anti-mandatory vaccine.
Yeah.
So the idea that, if there's a vaccine and people want to take it, fine, I'm happy for them to do so. But the idea that government's going to dictate to you and your children, you have to stick this needle in you or else you're going to go to jail, that's terrifying. And that's what they're talking about doing. It's a real threat.
It's fascinating. The government, the federal government, but the federal governments across the globe have basically nationalized the production and distribution of this medicine. And I'm like, where did that come from? Is this the new normal? Like, is this now like a global socialized medicine system? It's super creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that was interesting about how quickly the vaccine got through all of the research and the testing was that they openly stated, well, we didn't have to do any economic analysis of it, which apparently, as it should be, is part of any production process. But in this case, because the government stepped in and across the world, every government has bought up every possible dose of the vaccine.
Wow.
They're just like, yeah, we can make this. It's great. Because people would have bought it anyway. I don't see why the government.
Yeah, I don't think this is the kind of thing you need to gin up demand for.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
fairly certain that people would have bought it regardless of whether the government.
So we love medical
mandated.
innovation.
We do love medical
We
innovation.
love vaccinations that save lives,
Yes,
but we hate the government telling us what to do.
exactly.
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 Because it may be that politics and medicine don't mix.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And then, Sam, you should also talk about your other series that you started this year, The Cult of Wokeness.
Yes, I will. It's called The Cult of Wokeness. And this is another issue for me that, I don't know, I just started getting really upset by. It was during, COVID, and then the riots happened. And we've all heard about cancel culture and all these different terms and leftists taking over the universities, and it's all just kind of these nebulous ideas. And I feel like conservatives generally call it, wokeness, or like there's this slang term woke. But I started to notice during the Black Lives Matter rallies that people on social media, there's all these terms that were popping up, and it was almost like everybody was speaking the same language from the same script, and it just started to be this weird alternate reality. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like white fragility, all these different terms that everyone seemed to be on the same page on, except for me. It's like, where did everyone learn this?
And
like,
you don't even
how
know
to be
exactly
an
what it
anti-racist,
means, right?
Yeah. It all sounds really good. It's like, check your white privilege. All of it is seems, it's just this strange new world that we're living in. And I started to kind of delve into it a little bit and discovered that there's this whole area of philosophical thought that it all comes from, and it's taken over the universities. It's called critical theory. I found some great people like James Lindsay, who's been researching this for a decade or so and has read all the literature, and I have not done that. But I realized that there wasn't much on the right that was actually explaining these terms for the average person, because I think most people hear this stuff and they're like, that sounds great. I'm an anti-race. I'm against racism. Like, I'll be an anti-racist. Or like, you put yourself in these different categories, but people don't actually know that there's an agenda behind all of these different terms. So what we're trying to do with Cult of Wokeness is to really show what the agenda is and what you're buying into when you call yourself an anti-racist or something along those lines. And that comes from critical theory. But does that mean you're against racism? No, it actually explicitly does not mean that. It means that you are against, you're for systems that level out racial disparities and racial outcomes. So that means you're for for equality of outcome, which is an entirely different thing than equality of opportunity. It basically means there has to be some sort of state control or social control that manipulates those outcomes and creates those outcomes. So we created a whole bunch of different videos. I think the first one is essentially defining some of these terms, defining what the term racism itself changed into.
Yeah, there's a lot of language changing going on where terms that we all think we understand, like racism, don't mean the same thing anymore in certain circles. And so we're having a really hard time communicating with each other because people use the same words, but they have very different meanings in their minds when they say them.
Yeah, I didn't know I didn't know what it was, but a few years ago now, I quoted Martin Luther King when I was on CNN, and I said, judge people based on the content of the character, not the color of their skin.
Yeah.
And Don Lemon corrected me because he thought that was wrong somehow, and I didn't realize that this intersectionality thing was a thing, which is explicitly racist because everyone is judged based on the color of their skin or their sexual orientation.
Right.
And I'm like, how did that happen? And that's what you're digging into.
That's what we're digging into, and our one of our recent ones was how critical theory is racist, which is a not at all controversial title, but it explicitly is.
Where do you live? Do you want to tell people?
I won't tell anyone. I'm moving.
Just keep telling them Marin County; it'll be fine.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it's once you dig into it, you realize that it's explicitly racist.
Yeah.
And Ibram Kendi even says discrimination is good as long as you're discriminating in the right direction.
Yeah.
And racism. Forgot what I was going with that, but anyways, yeah, it's explicitly racist. You're supposed to judge people by their color, and it puts minorities into an oppressed category by definition, by default, which I find incredibly disempowering. Like, how do you put these people? How do you put a group into this place of you're never going to get ahead because of white oppression?
It's really
and all these
insulting
different
to a
terms.
lot of people.
It's incredibly
too.
insulting.
Saying, you're not an individual, you're not your choices, you're not your decisions, you're just the color of your skin.
Right.
And that defines you as a person. I think it's very insulting to people.
Yeah.
And I think an important point about this is that, there's sort of this idea in society now that like ideas don't matter and that you're wasting your time with philosophy and nobody reads books anymore and it's all about like pragmatic things and things that work. But like, this comes from academia, and a lot of it's radically changing not just our country but all over the world countries. And these are the ideas of philosophers who started in universities, and it's having huge real world implications. So we need to pay attention to what academia is doing, what the universities are doing, because ideas do matter. Those are what turn the wheels of history, and the wrong ideas can result in very disastrous real world consequences.
Yeah, it's what they've termed Gramsci, I think, termed the Long March Through the Institutions. And it's funny, my dad used to talk about this back in the day, like way when I was a kid. And I had no idea what he's talking about. And he honestly just sounded like a crazy conservative. And it's just like, conspiracy theory, whatever. But people like him were seeing the roots of it in schools. And even earlier, before it actually infected the schools. But at this point, it's gotten into schools, it's gotten into universities, it's gotten into governments. Now it's in the workplaces, which is, if anyone's ever seen, this whole diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, all these different seminars that are in workplaces, that directly comes from critical theory in the universities. So it is spread throughout our culture, and unless we understand what it is, we're not going to be able to stop it. So that's what we're trying to do with this series.
So Walter Williams, who's a great economist who just recently passed away at 80, he finished teaching a class on economics at George Mason and got in his car and died in the parking lot of the university, which is kind of amazing, but it's also a kind of baller way to go.
It's kind of a badass way to die.
And he's 80 years old, and so he grew up with a lot of oppression and discrimination, and he never wanted to be treated preferentially because he was black. And in one of the obituaries that I was reading about him, it talked about how he was in college and he flunked his first test. And he said, I was actually happy that they flunked me because I didn't want to be treated differently because I was black. Like, I didn't want to be given a better grade than I deserved. And it was just, again, he's such a badass. And I kind of loved that story.
That's awesome.
Okay, Sam Martin, creative director.
Yes, I'm creative director, by the way.
Nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
Free up that chair. We're going to bring in Mike Fuse and talk about a new project that Logan has masterminded called Last Call. And cynics might argue that this was just an excuse to day drink. Is that unfair?
Well, things can be more than one thing at the same time, is what I would say to that.
I won't deny it.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I masterminded this. This is something that we've been kind of kicking around the office for a while now. We've wanted to do kind of a podcast with the staff to just explore some things that don't make it onto Kibbe on Liberty or we don't otherwise talk about, and kind of do a more, deep dive into libertarian philosophy and things like that. And so we brought Mike on board, and Mike is an extremely smart, intellectual guy who reads a lot of books and studies in grad school. And we have great conversations about all kinds of philosophical issues. And so he was the perfect person to start this podcast with, called Last Call. And we started doing it, 18 or 20 weeks ago. We do it every week, and we just talk about what's in the news. We talk about what we're thinking about, what we're going through a libertarian lens, and we try to have good debates and good arguments and good discussions on that type of thing.
One of the things I like about your perspective, Mike, and you, by the way, were the guy that told us that Father Sirico would be in town.
I did.
Who defends, as you do, like you get your sense of liberty from your Catholic faith.
Yeah, I do. It's definitely my faith, or my passion for it. It's definitely kind of my foundation that I springboard off of. But it was that faith that kind of led me to libertarianism, in essence, where, I guess, to boil it down, I feel like if you're not free or have the liberty to choose what I think is the good choice or the moral choice, you're deprived of the virtue of that choice. If someone has a gun to your head or someone writes a law, what's the point? You haven't made a choice, someone made that choice for you. So that's kind of what drove me to libertarianism.
So is this when we pick on the Pope?
Yeah.
I feel like, I want to talk, I want to confront you personally about the fact that the Pope appears to be a socialist.
It's hard to defend the Pope and his socialist ways. I try to be a little kind, because I feel like from where I come from, he gets beat up a lot, even by my immediate family, who's very traditionally conservative. And I'm like, well, he still holds, the seat of Peter, as we call it as Catholics. It's a place of authority we have to respect. But, man, every time he opens his mouth, it's nails on the chalkboard.
So Father Sirico made a credible argument. You tell me if this is true or not, but the Pope is infallible on questions of faith, but has no authority when it comes to Economics 101.
That is 100% correct.
So I let you off the hook there.
You're free to disagree with him on pretty much anything. And don't quote me on this. I'm 99.9% sure only twice in the Catholic Church has we ever claimed infallibility by a Pope. So you can pretty much tell the Pope, like, thank you, but no thank you.
So I want to go back
by the way, we did just quote you on that, because this is live. So
I want to go back to the fact that Mike let us know that Father Sirico was coming to D.C., because it was a great moment, and you made us look really good and as if we knew everything that was going on. So you told us that he was coming into town, and I reached out to a friend of mine who's the executive director of Acton, and I said, hey, so I hear Father Sirico's coming into town. We'd love to have him on Kibbe on Liberty. Can you give me his contact information? And he responded back with, Father Sirico is going to be in Washington? I didn't even know that.
It's funny how I found out. So I do follow Father Sirico and what he does at his Acton Institute. I think they do great work. But I was doing a walk around the neighborhood with my kids and wife, and we stopped by the mailbox, and we got the Catholic newspaper that the Archdiocese sends us, and it was advertising he was coming. I was like, oh, Father Sirico's coming. And so
But this, like, one of the things we do at Free the People, and you guys sort of stumbled on this, but you have your perspective of faith as a Catholic. Logan, you're very secular, and liberty for you comes from a different place. But I always wanted Free the People to be that ecumenical place. Like, I don't care how you get to liberty. If you read Ayn Rand, that's great. If you read bless you.
We got COVID all through here. It's one of the things I like about our staff is we're all kind of different styles of libertarians.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the crazy hardcore anarchist libertarian. He's the Catholic libertarian. Sam is sort of a bleeding heart libertarian, I guess would be fair to say.
I was going to say New Age libertarian.
Yeah. Battaglia is a
I
little
call
bit
him
more
a
of a
kombucha libertarian.
Battaglia is a little bit more of like a nationalist libertarian. Is that fair to say?
He's just like a splenetic, angry libertarian.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's libertarian adjacent. Let's be honest.
True, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and Joel and Kara are really just in it for the weed.
Yeah.
We'll have you back on to defend yourself.
So
we'll cut that out in post.
Mike's been great. He's our newest team member.
Oh.
You kind of hounded us into bringing you on staff, and it was really smart of you to do. You've been great, and we are very happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I've been a groupie for a while, so eventually, like, I guess we just got to let him in the club.
Yeah, you kept showing up at the
I know.
house.
Just happy to be here.
I mean,
Not
honestly,
even sure. I don't even think they
That's
know
how
they
I
haven't
got
invited
Kibbe
me.
to hire me too. Is I just wouldn't stop pestering him until he gave me a job. So it works.
That is the key to
Yeah.
success here. Is just like keep nagging us until we eventually succumb.
COVID did ruin Kathleen and Kathleen's my wife, our only date night of the year since having children, which is the traditional Kibbe Christmas party.
Oh,
So the bad mayor of DC, I guess, ruined it.
yeah. We're only allowed to have 10 people in the house, and we have 9 at the moment. So we're for the time being we're under the right side of the law, but we're gonna have to do a Christmas in July party. I promise I won't decorate 5 Christmas trees though. Then, if I could find them, I might.
All right. Okay, so let's get Joel up here and Trey. And Joel is going to make a principled argument for smoking weed.
Oh, we're gonna just do weed? Just weed, man? You're not gonna advocate for mushrooms? Or anything
Hey,
like
they're
that?
legal in DC now.
Oh, that's true. Okay, alright, we're not gonna advocate.
So I've yeah, we won't talk about this because I don't want you to get arrested. Oh, you broke it. But people will recognize Joel as, how long have you officially been on the team?
This is 2 years,
2 years.
I believe. Yeah.
And we met in the Tea Party days, but over the process of the last 3 or 4 years, we've made several documentaries about you. The most recent one is now submitted in a film festival.
Yep. In April.
And it's about you weaning yourself off of opioids using marijuana, and you're sort of a walking case study of what the upside benefit of legalizing marijuana is.
Yeah, I'm so much better now. I mean, it's night and day. I'm not in that fog,
Yeah.
opiate fog.
Yeah. And how long's it been since you've been opiate free?
I think actually we're going on 2 years.
Wow.
Because it was right after I went off of everything when I actually was hired on. So, because
Yeah.
it was
I wanted to wait till you were clean for
it was at Freedom Fest 2018, and that was in the middle of when I was going off, and we're sitting in the bar, and you're like, "Do you want a job?" Sure. So, as like Mike, I've been a groupie for a while, so I'm a good friend.
And you sort of manage posting all of our stuff on social media.
Yeah, my official title is social media coordinator.
Troll management.
Yeah.
That should be his
Try.
new title. I think
Yeah.
we've just
Troll
promoted you
management.
to troll management.
So, I wanted you to tell the story. So you and your mom run a restaurant in Ohio, right? Is it Sarvis, Ohio?
Yes.
Called Marv's.
Yep.
If you're driving through Sarvis, Ohio, please go to Marv's.
And even if you're driving near Sarvis,
Yeah, I was
Ohio,
gonna say-
go to Mars.
Mars. Like them on Instagram,
Not
Facebook.
too many people drive through Sardis going somewhere, so
But you're lucky enough to have possibly the worst Republican governor in DeWine, and he is making it virtually impossible for you guys to run your little restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're still at 50%, but in that area, everybody's really scared of COVID, so they're not coming out. We're barely making enough money to even pay our staff. The owners of the restaurant, we're not taking any money
Yeah.
to make sure our staff and the bills get paid. So, but yeah, we just don't have the people coming in. And of course, we have to mandate the whole mask thing, which is stupid. It's like, okay, you need one to come in the door. As soon as you get 10 feet to your table, take it off. It's
Silly.
ridiculous, but there's spies. So we make sure people have their masks on because mom doesn't want to lose the license. I think I'd be a little more willing to fight if it was just me, but
Yeah.
I don't want to put my 70-some-year-old mother through that.
Yeah.
So
You're a fighter. I've been in fights with you.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
we're not sure if we're gonna be able to make it. Actually,
yeah.
I mean, even our food distributor, he said, one more shutdown, they're done.
Wow.
Well, they can't you can't keep changing your distribution.
Right.
We were talking about this earlier, but one of my niece's restaurants was shut down in Pennsylvania just hours after the food truck for the entire week pulled up. Oh. So what the hell are you going to do with that?
Yeah, the governor announced at 4 o'clock on Thursday that all the restaurants were shutting down at midnight on Friday.
Woof.
So,
it's rough.
Yeah. I'm hoping, though, that like all of the staff just got to go home with really great food boxes.
Right.
You hope. Yeah, you hope. That poor owner probably has to keep those hams and stuff, though.
Right.
So, Trey, besides being a new father with your second son.
Yeah, in this great COVID world that I'm going to raise him in.
Yeah.
Woohoo! And a white kid.
Yeah.
I really hit the gold mine there. I am the editor, so I could edit that out. I might keep it.
Yeah. So what project, you've been involved in a bunch of this stuff, what project are you most proud of that we did this year?
Well, I'm not trying to kiss your ass, but I've been very happy with the KOL growth. And I honestly think it's because you finally hit your stride. The conversations are good, the guests are good, and the numbers are showing. So I'm the guy that follows the KOL numbers like a hawk. There are 5,000 of you guys out there. Thank you. 7,500 to be exact if we include iTunes. And so I'm super proud about KOL. Definitely giving out good content. Selfishly, super pumped about Let's Talk Socialism and the education video that was shot on the front of the year. Let's Talk Socialism will be rolling out. I'm actually going to show you today. But honestly, I'm kind of more proud of the group as a whole, and you guys kind of touched on it on the front end of the conversation, but like this group started kicking ass and taking names when COVID kind of set in, which I think probably if you look around at most businesses, they kind of did the opposite. So yeah, I'm not going to take credit for just anything I did. I think the whole group kicked ass and took names. And all I would ask is that whoever's watching this go out and watch all the content that we have on YouTube, mainly because you're probably at home anyways. So watch it. Give us a nice retention rate.
Yeah, binge watch the whole thing. Yeah, you remind, like, I forget how much we did this year, but we started this new series called Let's Talk About, and you were the lead on that. And the production values are really cool. It's sort of, it's a different way of watching what amounts to an explainer about education or democratic socialism.
Absolutely.
But it looks different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. You guys hooked it up and let us rent that awesome space. So if we could do that moving forward, that'd be awesome. But no, I think it kicks PragerU's ass. It's definitely a whole... Well, I mean, I filmed it. I edited it, so it's better.
Take that, PragerU.
Yeah. Unless you want to hire us to shoot your videos, you could do that too. But no, I mean, other things that we did that were pretty awesome outside of just those videos and up in the ante is... and we touched on a little bit, was going to the LP. And like as probably the conservatarian on the staff, that was pretty eye-opening. And not only that...
In a good way or a bad way?
Well, I'm not going to mention names. I did film a couple of interesting characters. But the real point, and the video that came out of that's done really well, was the recap video of the convention. And I think the people that were there, hearing what they had to say and how the libertarian movement resonates with them in their lives, to me, that was kind of like a... Ugh. And for any of you guys out there that hadn't seen that, please go watch that as well, because to me that summed it up and packaged everything that these people are about in a 3-minute piece of content. And you got to see Joe Jorgensen, Spike Cohen, Larry, you were in it. I mean, pretty much every key figure in the movement was featured in it. And yeah, so that was another awesome piece of content that we got to film this year.
It kind of shows you like how diverse the liberty movement is, because it can go from very socially conservative to crazy anarcho-capitalists like Logan.
Yeah.
He's the very fringe of the fringe. Do we all agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Everyone's nodding their head yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah. But and that to me, like the metaphor of the Libertarian Party. So the Libertarian Party is having this fight between basically the conservatives and the social liberals. And what I find interesting about that is that libertarianism is the one place where we say, you know what, you guys can do whatever you want with your life as long as you don't hurt people or take their stuff. But even Ben Shapiro has said, like, if you want to end the culture war, you got to go libertarian, because we're the only guys that have this sort of live and let live attitude. We're not interested in telling you whether or not you get to go to church or whatever. And that, to me, is where most young people are, which is why we create content targeting them.
I got a question for you. How come the libertarians are not claiming the whole red, yellow, or whatever green? Remember when we were there and you could
the
wear
wristbands.
the wristbands? Why are they not claiming that? Because, I mean, that was in the midst of the hot... Yeah. We were supposed to all get corona and we didn't.
No, that was brilliant. So when you checked into the LP convention, you were given a wristband, red, yellow, or green. And red was, I'm really freaked out about COVID. I don't want to get sick. Stay as far away from me as you possibly can. And yellow was, okay, I'll talk to you as like a normal person, maybe an elbow bump. And then green was, oh, dear God, I just need a hug. Yep. And I thought it was really great. And they should have owned it. And they should have really made a bigger deal about it, because it let people set their own personal preference for their comfort level from COVID, rather than waiting for some top-down mandate from the president. Or
I thought it was just weird watching Battaglia hug everybody, because he doesn't even like people.
Hugs are good during COVID, man. I mean, nowadays you can't even smile at somebody and they know you're smiling. It's awful. It's weird. Yeah,
just as an act of civil disobedience, I went green, and I was actually projecting. I'm the one that doesn't like people, but I was hugging everybody, because we all need a hug.
I went yellow just so I could make my own decision.
Right. That's right.
I don't want to be green at people just running up to me.
Some people are not huggable, is what you're saying.
So we've been going on for a while. I'm going to talk a little bit, and then you can wrap up.
Yeah,
but
get us somewhere productive.
It's too late for that. But no, I just want to say that it's been a really shitty year on one hand, but it's also been a really amazing year in other ways. So our team, as we've mentioned, we're scattered all over the country, right? I mean, we're in D.C., we're in California, Chicago, West Virginia, everywhere. And so we're used to working remotely, and we've always done like phone calls and all of that to connect. But when the lockdown started, we switched from phone calls to Zoom, kind of recognizing that people are going to be more disconnected than ever. So weirdly, I've seen more of you all this year
Good point.
than I normally would. And I'm really proud of the way that you guys stepped up. I don't know if it was at the beginning a little bit of concern about that maybe revenue and resources might be scarcer, and you needed to really kind of prove yourself so that if we had to make any cuts, you'd be safe. And luckily, we didn't have to do that. I mean, you guys stepped up, our supporters stepped up, and putting aside all of the horrific things about COVID, it actually hasn't been a bad year.
And another Christmas, and we are about to, well, I was about to say we're about to start drinking.
Well, you've already done that.
We're about a case into it, but we're going to have a somewhat illicit Christmas dinner together tonight, and it might just end up on film, and a new product that you'll see before Christmas. So thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Logan, what's your preferred holiday?
Yule.
Yule.
Cheers to that.
So you say Happy Yule?
Happy Yule.
Jolly
Merry Yule.
Jolly Yule.
Cheers.
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 Thanks for watching Kibbe on Liberty. By now, you know this is the most important event of your week. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Click the little bell so you get notifications. Kibbe on Liberty, mostly honest conversations with mostly interesting people.